Come on, let's go!
Keith Courage in Alpha Zones is a side-scrolling platformer released in 1989 by Hudson Soft for the TurboGrafx-16 system. Never heard of the TurboGrafx-16? Sadly, you're not alone. Originally known as the PC Engine in Japan, the system was the result of a cross between NEC's desire to enter the console market and Nintendo's rejection of Hudson Soft's advanced graphics chips. The system was released just 2 weeks after Sega's Genesis launch, but they still did their best to market it as the first 16-bit console. I won't get into the arguments for or against that claim here, but suffice it to say that the TurboGrafx-16 hardware blew the champion NES away, and could have even been a pretty solid contender against the Genesis. The PC Engine was immensely popular in Japan, so why couldn't the TurboGrafx-16 get a foothold in the US? First, the PC Engine was marketed only in major metropolitan areas, which saved NEC quite a lot of money. This worked in the small country of Japan, but the US is a much larger country with some huge gaps between the major cities. For this reason, unless you lived near a major city, you probably never saw a single commercial, or really even had any idea the thing even existed. Secondly, publishers like Konami, who had thrown their support behind the system in Japan, couldn't release those games in the US due to Nintendo's ridiculous exclusivity agreements. Lastly, there's this game. While Sega chose Arcade's success Altered Beast as their pack-in title, NEC decided that Keith Courage in Alpha Zones was the best their system had to offer. Really, guys? This one? Not Blazing Lasers or Alien Crush? So Keith Courage, man, that name. Why didn't they just call him Hero McGoodguy? In Keith Courage, you'll play this kid with a sword who moves really, really slowly. The control is stiff and barely responsive. It's not the worst out there, but it's not even close to the best. You'll fight random creatures and flying, dive-bombing Lucky Cats in order to collect gold coins. Once you've finished, you ride a rainbow? Then this happens. Holy crap, where the hell did that come from? This giant freaking robot just appears out of nowhere. Did he transform into it? What the hell? I guess we better go back to the included comic book for some backstory.
Keith Courage in Alpha Zones. The year is 2004. The place is planet Earth. But today, the face of the planet may change forever. A giant meteor strikes the Earth's surface. Death and destruction are everywhere. A father hides his son.
Look! It's coming! No!
Hurry, Keith.
Few can envisage that anything more terrible might lie ahead. However, a new terror befalls the Earth. The nation of bad or beastly alien dudes has arrived.
Our new home, dudes!
Bizarre creatures from outer space, they burrow deep into the Earth's crust. Their sinister mission, to capture Earth.
We must band together if we are to survive.
Organizing quickly, Earth's nations band together. NICE, or Nations of International Citizens for Earth, is formed. The dudes establish a treacherous labyrinth of caves with a surface outpost. The citizens of NICE call this the Alpha Zone.
From here, we rule the world!
Yes, and what's left of mankind.
Years of war are waged, until finally, a breakthrough. Keith's father, now a nuclear scientist for NICE, synthesizes an awesome mechanism of war. The Nova Suit is born.
Father, can that be you?
Yes, Keith. I feel a tremendous force within myself, but the secret of the Nova Suit must now be tested.
Half man, half mechanical monster. Now man and robot are as one. Will this turn the tide of battle? Easily defeating the bad outpost guards, Keith's father descends into the underworld. Confronted by ever more fearsome dudes, he energizes the Nova suit.
Fire, you fools! Run!
Now dudes fall before him. His terrible swift sword cracks with the sound of lightning. His march to the Robozone seems unstoppable until he is suddenly caught off guard.
Surprise, Earthling!
Invincible, eh?
Painfully wounded, he ascends into the upper world.
Father!
Now you must carry on, my son.
He reveals the secret of the Nova suit and its awesome Nova force to Keith. At last, the sword is passed from father to son.
I will bring peace to the world!
Keith's friends rally to his side.
Yes!
We will help you, Keith.
And I
too will help.
Now the battle is in his hands and yours.
That was interesting. The characters shown at the end you'll meet in the game, well, most of them, they'll magically appear inside these huts no matter where you go. The dialogue is in English, sort of. Here you'll find lines like, "Look for weapons as I sell them to you." Also, there's Nurse Nancy, no, I'm not making these names up, I swear, who offers to sell you extra lives.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
While extra lives would be great, all she actually does is refill your health. There are no extra lives in this game, so one life, game over. No saves, no passwords. Oh, and that gold coin collection I mentioned earlier? It isn't optional. Before the end of the overworld levels, you'll need to grind. No, seriously, grinding in an action platformer. You will spend way too much time walking back and forth just killing enemies just to upgrade your sword or buy bombs for use in the underworld. Anyway, while the overworld levels are slow and stiff, the underworld levels are blazing fast, but still stiff. And be warned, if Mario's Mushroom Kingdom is a mushroom-induced hallucination, then this is a full-blown acid trip. The enemies are varied and bizarre, like these giant head guys, these guys in sunglasses with gigantic revolvers on their heads, and card-throwing grasshopper Wilfred Brimley.
Diabetes.
Several of the enemies seem to be positioned not relative to the level, but relative to the player. So, if you should move up and down, so will they. It may be extra challenging, but it feels like lazy coding to have enemies that should be stationary follow you around as you move. The worst, though, is the platforming, you know, the core of the game. There are several jumps in the game that will almost certainly cause you to bump your head on a low ceiling and fall to your death. Spikes are instant death, and you'll wind up in them a lot. In fact, the game will only progress if you move downward, but it refuses to show you what's below you. So you'll drop down and die instantly with no warning or chance to correct your course. As I mentioned earlier, there are no saves or passwords, but you can continue, losing half your bombs and money. By the time you reach the boss, expect that you'll have no bombs or money left after having hit the spikes again and again. It feels like the cheapness here and the grinding in the overworld are both being used to artificially extend the length of the game, which makes sense because even on your first playthrough the game can be completed in about 3 hours. If you have the patience to put up with this long enough to finish the game, you'll be treated to this screen. Warning: the following scene may cause seizures in those prone to epilepsy. Wait a second, this kid doesn't look anything like the guy in the comic book. Who the hell is he? And why does Nurse Nancy look like she's 5 years old? And who the hell was this bird guy, and why the hell doesn't he appear in the game? And why doesn't the story seem to mesh at all with what's going on in the game? Well, here's the long-awaited story of the origins of Keith Courage. In fact, this is really a game based on a little-known Japanese animated series called Mashin Eiyuden Wataru, in which a boy named Wataru is granted the powers of the dragon god and wakes up in another world where he must defeat a demon named Doakura. He's created a silly-looking robot out of clay, which he brings to life with his newfound powers. It's a silly show, and it's meant to be ridiculous and over the top. And so, of course, was the game. So what were they thinking? They took a game based on a silly children's series which our country had never seen, tacked on a story that neither makes sense or fits in with what's actually happening in the game, bundle it with the system, and then they ask us to take it seriously? Poor TurboGrafx-16, you never even stood a chance. All in all, Keith Courage is a lousy game. It controls badly, the story is a mess, and the graphics aren't exactly a showpiece for the system. At less than $2, Keith Courage is possibly the cheapest game for a system that's full of rare games. With that in mind, Keith Courage is still a 2 out of 5. If you've got a couple of bucks and a few hours to kill, well, try to find something else before you settle on this one.
Now dudes fall before him. His terrible swift sword cracks with not burps, cracks. Let's try that again.
Yes, Keith. I feel a tremendous force within myself, and the evacuation of my bowels doesn't seem to have helped.
I'm gonna bring peace to the world! That's not a good name, but you can have it.